I'm Caio. I'm actually from Brazil, Santo André, which is the city, from a collective called Ativismo ABC, which is activism ABC from ABC region, which is also inside São Paulo metropolitan area. And I've been traveling around the East Coast for almost 2 months now, doing discussions specifically on anarchism in Brazil and our collective there and our perspectives and theories and practical things we're been working on. I've been to New York at the beginning of my trip and then travel all around for meeting up with anarchist collectives and meeting up with different spaces, collective houses, and community space, and trying to bring discussions on that. And then I'm back to New York, so people from the Free Store and the collective asked me if I could do a presentation, and I thought, since I've done one at Blue Stocks, I might change it to another subject, like anarchist economics. So I don't think anybody here was at Blue Stockings from my talking, right? So, okay, no problem. And so I'll be talking about anarchist economics, which is also, at some point, is not really a presentation. It's just a presentation to open up for a discussion. So it's not a lecture or anything. I just bringing up some of the thoughts that we have over economics at our collective in Brazil, and just to discuss and relate. Also, we can relate to the free store here, and I don't know, just open up for discussions. And if you guys have any questions during my presentation, just raise your hand. We can talk during it. Okay. Any questions before we start? So there's like a bunch of things to explore inside economics and anarchist economics. There's not many things written on it, about it, and there's no specific anarchist point of view on economics. So what I'll try to do is just divide them into quantifying or not quantifying economic systems, and how we can go into it and use some examples and some critics towards some models and all. So answering to that question and using that perspective to go on, like, so if we want to quantify, we need a currency-based economy. If we don't want to, it's hard to have a system, or since there's no quantification, it's hard to come up with a specific system which is more related to social relations than quantifying. So it's pretty complex things. So let's go into the money basics. So functions that are actually into economics, which is medium of exchange, unit of account, and store of value. So the thing is, the idea is to quantify everything and just relate it to a way that we can exchange this kind of it's just control every social relation, not everyone, but mostly related to our daily lives, in order to exchange them in an economic way and have financial institutions related to it very under control. So I use a lot of anthropology as a background to question economics and economic sciences, because it brings a lot of other discussions, like what other human cultures were like related to economic systems, and quantifying the things we do on daily basis, like production and all. Do they all do the same thing, have the same kind of cultural background, which leads them to organize stuff for productions and consumers and all that kind of stuff? So is the idea of quantification present in other human cultures, and how does the use of money shape the way we see and relate to our environment? So one thing is, specifically in capitalism, and there's a lot of new theories related to capitalism, like how to deal with pollution. So all the answers are related to quantifying. Try to quantify the amount of pollution and then relate to economic systems, so you can like have taxes on it, or pay like tickets for pollution, or whatever. The market is also trying to embrace all the things related to our life inside capitalism, to quantify it, control it, and be all controlled by money and the idea of exchanging, monetary exchange and currencies, and also pretty much is just based on the idea of quantifying and controlling everything. That's pretty much capitalism. And having a database, for example. The whole world today, the capitalism today is all based on database. There's no money going on. It's just database on computers and stuff. And so it's a lot easier to quantify everything. It's just database. Just put up new database and try to control everything. So that's pretty much how capitalism works. So in anthropology, if you look into other human cultures, you will not see that kind of behavior or that kind of idea of quantifying and controlling everything. They have a lot of differences in human relations, so we're going to go into that. So economic science, economics, so it's fundamentally the study of how organized production and consumption to meet human needs. So, so using anthropology also to go into that phrase would be the needs of a society are based on its own culture. So if you have a need, it's really hard to understand it as a human need. It's always related to some kind of culture. So even, I mean, you can have housing and food as something that humans need to survive. Yeah, you have a lot of differences inside that. Other than that, they're all vary from culture to culture. It's very different from each other. All the ideas that and conceptions and symbolic culture related to that is very different from each other. So, and the idea of production and consumption is already an expression of the needs of a given society. So, economic science uses like production and consumption as related to humanity, related to, which is not. It's just related to our culture, for example. The Western culture is more related to production and consumption, control and quantifying and working on that. So how can we work on human needs if production and consumption are already a cultural expression, right? So it's that's pretty much how economic science have no, I could say, like looking into anthropology, I can say they have no scientific background to the things they say, and they actually, the assumptions that they have towards human nature and human behavior or whatever. So we have inside anarchist economics, we have the participatory economics, which is strongly related to Michael Albert, which is also a good friend of Noam Chomsky. And he's been to Brazil. Like, I met with him at a discussion in the University of São Paulo around 9 years ago, I think so. So that's how I started studying economics and going into that. So the principles of participatory economics is decision-making as an economic mechanism to guide the production, consumption, and allocation of resources in a given society. So the idea is to have the same idea of production and consumption, but you just put into self-management into it. So that's pretty much how he say it's anarchist economics, because of self-management, and how the other principles and institutions are more clear on that. So workers and consumers councils utilizing self-managerial methods for decision making. So balanced job complexes. So we won't have like people working on the mines all the time. We can actually balance them with less work on the mines and give like turns on other people working there, and so we can have a balance in job complexes. Remuneration according to effort and sacrifice. So he keeps up the idea of keeping money in society as economic system, and participatory planning. So everything is much more related to self-management into an economic system. So let's go more critic about that. So problems with PARICON, which is participatory economy. strongly based on ethnocentric assumptions of classical economists. So he never questioned the whole idea of money use or assumptions on human relations and human behavior that, like Adam Smith funded as the basics of the capitalist economic system, was pretty much just based on the idea of every other human culture is just poor and have to work a lot to make a living. It actually depends on the culture that you're actually looking at. It can also be true, but there's many other cultures that would show that it's not the fact. So financial institutions has a strong need of complex financial institutions because of the use of the money. So and it is also best applied in rich countries with good capitalist structures. So it's pretty easy to use Pericon on economy like in the United States, which is well structured, rich, and also have strong, huge financial institutions and capitalism. So if you go to a real poor country, even Brazil, you won't find that kind of structure, and you will have a lot of problems to put up like Pericon going there. Because, so if you have even a poor country, then Brazil, it'll actually need like a pre-capitalist period to then have a Pericon going. And that's the problem that I see with it. And self-management has the main cultural change. I question that a lot. Like, it's just self-management that we want as an anarchist, as a political perspective. Is that it? Just put self-management in everything, and everything will just be nice and anarchist and all. I also question that. And how far can we go with self-management to keep up this culture, the idea of consumption and production going, which is also just cultural based and ethnocentric at some point, because you can see a lot of different cultures that don't rely on that to live. And why do we keep up saying that kind of stuff? So just going a little bit into anthropology. So it's the study of humanity. So I could actually say, which is the variety of human cultures and human relations. It's really into human relations, trying to understand a different culture, being inside their relations and language and understanding all the way that they actually picture the world and their social relations and all. And some characteristics of our own culture hardly understands the outcome of human relations. So there's a lot of things that our culture struggles to understand, and they put up a bunch of theories, and which is pretty simple to other human cultures, like suicide, for example. It's just like a nightmare to go into suicide and analyze it and really understand why suicidals happens and why they grow, and a lot of things like violence, for example. It's just something like in the shadows for our culture, which is also related to the human relations and social relations in our own culture, and we cannot understand it. We keep up doing, specifically inside capitalism, also related to quantifying stuff. And then you have the Free Economics, the book, best-selling books, which also reinforce that and makes even harder for us to step back from our culture and really try to understand our really human relations and all. So it's pretty hard to come up with an economic system related to other human cultures, since we have a hard time understanding our own culture. So that's one point of and strongly ethnocentric. We don't actually think that we can learn from other human cultures. Just because of technology, most of the time we just think they're primitive and we got nothing to learn from them. That's the truth. I mean, that besides people talking about their struggle and Indian indigenous people struggling against capitalism and all, I've never saw anarchists going there and really trying to understand their perspectives and their culture and really try to bring up, learn from them into our reality. It's just like struggling and stuff like that. So going into a little bit more into the ideas that we have on economic systems, and gift economy, and specifically into gift economy. So Marcel Mauss and the Gift have a good book about gifts inside other human cultures, and have a lot of studies into that, and it's a huge study inside anthropology. So gifts are never free. So the idea of gifts just being free is free from monetary control, free from money. At the same time, is not free from human relations. And that's the difference between currency-based economy and gift economy. Money-based economy are really free from social relations because you pay for it. It ends right there. If I sell it to you something, as soon as you got the money going, the money gets away with all the human relations related to that. When you give something up, you build up a strong social relation. I'm actually not just giving one thing, but also giving a part of me inside that gift. And at some point, we will build up some kind of stronger social relation. And capitalism is all based on money, so we don't have strong social relations and human relations because of that. So the act of giving creates a social bond with an obligation to reciprocate. So at some point, this obligation is just a way that when you actually see me again, and if I gave you something as a gift, and I can make it clear to you that I'm actually giving that because I like you or because I wanted to give it to you, at some point you will be reciprocal to that with any kind of stuff. I mean, gift is not only related to material objects. It's also related. You don't have to give me a T-shirt back if I gave you a T-shirt. You can do whatever, and it will be reciprocal, right? So gifts are I don't know how to say this. Annihilated. So a pretty hard word. And that's because that's the difference between using money and so money is all based on alienation. You just alienate the thing that you gave away through money, so you don't build up social relations. And solidarity is achieved through the social bonds created by gift exchange. So this is also, the other point is also important. Gifts also exist in the Western culture. So we have gifts inside capitalism, not capitalism, but inside our culture. Like Christmas, at some point you buy the present, but at the same time you give it away. So there's also even inside capitalism, there are strong social relations related to gifts, but they're not part of an economic system. There's just a small part of the culture that we live in. So we can also find gift relations inside our culture, right? So using another, just to point it out, if you guys want to write it down, then look for it. There's a bunch of other economic systems. This one is very known. The Kula exchange system, as an example of economic system, which is a study from Bronislaw Malinowski on Argonauts of the Western Pacific. So it's a very important anthropological work, and it's a economic system based on 18 islands on the New Guinea. So they have like a huge exchange related to like 18 different communities and islands, and how they work and how they are all related to no money-based economy and how that actually works. And it's pretty much a way to point out that there's the idea of capitalist system and utilitarianism economy, which is based on Stuart Mill, is a strong guy that wrote about that in economics, cannot be related to every human culture. There's a bunch of different ways to relate to each other and to exchange a lot of things. So open up for discussions. Is the gift economy only applicable to the exchange of material things? That was something I pointed out. And free economy or gift economy? What's the difference? how can we relate, for example, to the free store or any other, or how can we build a gift economy system, right? And I don't know, yeah, nobody was here at my Blue Stockings talking, but you can also relate to a lot of things that we have inside our collective in Brazil. We use a lot of the idea of gift economy and anthropology, and a lot of things that I do traveling around, specifically in Brazil, is trying to build up relations pretty much based on gift economies, like helping out, building up stuff with other collectives. They also come up to our space in Brazil. So we have a space in Santo André, which is Black Lizard House. I forgot to put up my contacts in the website but I can write it on later on. And we use a lot of that to relate to other anarchist collectives and to build up relationships, strong relationships. And it's pretty much based on gift economy. And then I have a bunch of biography. We can have an email list after it, and I can send you guys the biography, some interesting things. So that's pretty much it. And now the discussion about it. I don't know what you guys think. You guys related to free store, how we can relate to gift economy, or what are the bounds for it, and the differences between the free store and an actual gift economy. How can we build something up to reach that? I don't know.
Well, I think one of the strongest differences between the free store and a gift economy is, I guess it depends on when you're actually doing the exchange. Because a lot of times there isn't that human interaction. You're not seeing who is actually giving the gift, and you're receiving, but that puts it in the free economy because you're receiving free goods. You're not actually receiving a gift from someone. But for example, downstairs before we got in, there was a gentleman who I think it can fluctuate between the free economy and a gift economy, because there was a gentleman who picked up a bed and a television, and that was definitely in the realm of gift economy because he was thankful, even though it wasn't necessarily to the person that left the bed. It was to the organization in our hearts who were responsible for it, and he was very much so. It was an idea of reciprocity and an exchange of at least an acknowledgement of being given something and being thankful for it, that you don't find if it was a free economy, in which case you just take it, it's yours, it was free, it didn't belong to anyone anymore, and you're free to give it.
Sure.
The one thing that's, I think, significant about how a gift economy works is it doesn't have to happen in a direct, like, I give you the bed, you're thankful, and then sometime down the road you give me something else. That's more of like a separated barter, and that doesn't have to exist in a gift economy. You can still have, circular reciprocity can exist circularly. Yeah. So the free store can exist as a medium for people to give to the free store, and then also feel the gratitude for the free store, and then be able to take from it. I think it still works as a medium for exchange, where people value the free store as this mechanism for distribution, and that they give to it because they love it so much. I think that's the idea of facilitating an economy around it.
Yeah, but also Caio was talking a lot about the social relations built around a gift economy, and in that sense it does sound a lot like bartering, because it's like the free store becomes the thing that people have a relationship with, as opposed to other human beings. So I don't know, so the kind of gift economy that you were talking about, how's it different from bartering?
The idea is, gift economy can be like you all said, can actually exist inside the free store. The idea can be brought up to a larger perspective, into having a capitalist system substituted by gift economy. That's the other part of the political perspective, anarchist perspective, into that. So the free store can also be just in a perspective of strategy, a way to build up good relationships inside the community, and then try to build up a gift economy outside of that or inside of that. But I'm not saying, so we can also, gift economy, like I said, can be inside other systems too and work with it. I worked with the idea of having a larger gift economy in order to get away with, to destroy capitalism, or really have a larger economic system that can actually overcome capitalism. So it can actually have other opportunities of like have meetings inside for the community inside the free store and try to see who are the people that actually are also cleaning up besides the collective and try to build up new relationships and have this closer. I mean, the store is always packed with people all the time since I've been here like a month ago and I came back, it's the same. I mean, a lot of people come to it, and just having the opportunity to talk to them and talk about the free store and bringing up another, I don't know, it's just so many possibilities. But we have, the thing that I also talk about is like having in mind how we can actually overcome capitalism through an economic system larger than just the free store, or just, I don't know, building up new relations, or have a local production, just giving up to the neighbors some of that stuff as gifts and see how we can build up. That's pretty much what we do back in Brazil, our collective. We try to build relationships inside the neighborhood that we are in, just taking stuff from the garden and going house to house and giving that away in order to build up a social relationship. So the whole house, the whole space is not really into all gift economy, but we use it as a way to expand gift economy and bring it to a larger scale. So it's not really just turning the free store into like gift economy as a whole, but having in mind that we can build a gift economy system using that as in a strategical perspective. I don't know if it's that clear. I confused them all.
Well, I think like one of the biggest obstacles to really expanding a gift economy is people's current general addiction to like brand new stuff. You know, when it's a gift, it's used, and not everyone is like interested in used stuff. And you know, and that's not true, of course, for example, presentations or skills or something like that. But for physical, material things, I think in order to really expand beyond like a somewhat specific community, you have to like educate about like why new stuff is not like so great or so necessary. And that's like a barrier that can be hard to pass for people that aren't like really inclined towards like radicalism or politics or any, like comfortable in a certain like blindered life and lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree on that. And it's just the idea of having. It's just the idea of having a lot of collectives working together and talking to each other, having discussions. It's just to have a broader, a larger scale and ideas of strategies to work on that. For example, have a political perspective inside a free store, or using other spaces, not using, but relating or building up alliances with other spaces, with other ways to work on. Just the thing is, it's very important to have like some purpose on the things we're doing, and inside anarchist systems or anarchist activism as a whole, and have that in common, to have like a free store or have a community space running with a library, so we can have a lot of different ways to relate to people. That's pretty much how we bring in diversity inside the anarchist activism and anarchist perspectives. Just have diversity. So the free store will actually have people that don't care about new stuff, right? So there's a bunch of people that actually care about new stuff. How can we actually talk to them? How can we also like have discussions about it? Like, do we actually need new stuff, or inviting people to talk about it? Like I don't know, just going to economists that actually defend it, talk about it, and the needs of good new stuff, and bring him over to have a discussion. He would probably bring a lot of people that actually defend it, that actually think they need new stuff and confront ideas and bring, I don't know, it's just having larger diversity inside the anarchist movement is also important to reach more people, different perspectives and stuff like that. That's also what we try to do. Just like the garden is a way to bring new people in, and building up and rebuild the house is another way to bring new people in, and discussions another way, libraries another way, and having workshops is just another way to bring new people in, and talking in different collectives and going to different cities, traveling around Latin America. That's pretty much how we try to bring new people in. That's the importance of trying to build up alliances between collectives, so we can have more diversity inside and try to bring more new perspectives inside. It's very hard to find new perspectives inside the anarchist movement.
I don't understand exactly all the differences between a free economy and a gift economy. Can you talk about that?
Okay, if I brought like a book from Brazil, right, and I leave it downstairs and just put up a sign, it's free. Don't leave my name on it, nothing on it. You just come by, see it's free, grab it, and go home. You don't know me, right? So if I actually meet you, introduce myself, talk about the things that I'm doing, and the book that I have, how important it is to me, and I want to give it away to somebody, and I give it to you, that's the difference. We build up a relationship, right?
Yeah, I guess we would build up a relationship, but I kind of support a free economy more because I think it builds up like an anonymous solidarity. Like, I give something away for free, people see that there are free things, and maybe they're more likely to give away free things themselves without like a social bond between one person in particular, but are maybe more generous and open with anybody by setting the example of something that's free.
I don't think that necessarily anonymity is necessary to be a free economy. It's the idea of there being no bond. So what you're talking about is still a bond. It's an anonymous bond, but you feel like you're part of this collective of people who leave stuff, and it might be anonymous, but there's a group of you that are doing it, and so therefore you feel like if you're participating or you're getting, that you feel the need for reciprocity. So it's still that, even though it's anonymous, it still sounds like more of a gift economy. You know what I mean? A free economy is like you feel no strings attached. It's like nothing. It's like if you saw something on a stoop, you didn't think it belonged, you know.
Well,
but even
something in the trash.
yeah, but even
that's
like
not an economy. That doesn't facilitate more trade. Like, the bond is necessary for it to be an economy. Otherwise, it's just finding something on the soup. Nobody's going to make production around finding, you know.
And I'm not talking about the bond. I'm talking about the idea of anonymity. Like, a free isn't necessarily anonymous. You know what I mean? Like, or a gift isn't necessarily unknown. Like, you don't have to know someone in a gift exchange or economy to feel a bond. Like, in our hearts, you don't necessarily know the people that are involved in it. You might not see someone at a free store, but like you can have a gift exchange as opposed to a free exchange, and just like someone could have a free exchange in the free store, and you can have the same. It depends. It's not necessarily.
Yeah, but at the same time, you won't rely much on that relation.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't be able to come up to the collective and say, oh, I'm here now and I need help, or I need something, I want to build up something with you guys, and well, who are you? He thinks he's part of that, but there's no specific bond. And the idea that we have of gift economy is building up community based culture, and really relying on each other and have responsibilities towards the things we do too. Just like giving up stuff is also a way to say, okay, I'm being good and all, I'm cool, but at the same time you don't have the responsibility to the things you've done. I mean, it's just, I don't like that. I'd rather work with very strong bonds, and I want to be responsible for everything I do and all the relations that I have. I don't like the anonymous things. I think it's just a modern way to do a lot of stuff at the same time you've done nothing. It's just like internet, Facebook, and all. I'm part of community, but if you're also in trouble and need help, and you go to the community that you're part of, and there's thousands of people, you talk about it all day long with people and all, but if you really need help or need somebody by your side, you won't have it. You can send a bunch of things in there and everybody's like, okay, maybe, but not really. So that's the difference. I don't know. It's pretty clear to me, and that's the things that we work on, is just like be responsible, and we want to be in touch. We want to be seen and talk to each other and hug each other and really have strong relationships. And it takes a lot of effort, brings a lot of differences and fights, but we'd rather be that than just keep doing the things that our culture have been doing for a long time.
Yeah, but you also talk about the desire to expand such a thing like far and wide, and you can't maintain that kind of personal bond. I mean, you can only maintain that kind of personal bond with a relatively finite amount of people. So I guess you're talking about a bond that becomes like a bit of a web, like
that's how other I mean, it's pretty much the idea of having control of the whole system. Is just based on our culture too. It's just like, I don't want to know everybody in the whole world or the whole community, but the people that actually see or lives next to me or are also related to my daily life, I want to know them.
Right.
And that brings a lot of stuff.
Well, one thing in terms of bridging the internet and gift economies, one of the best examples I've found of a modern gift economy is couchsurfing, where you have everybody sort of buying into the system of, if I host people, right, my needs will be met when I go traveling and I want to stay somewhere. Yeah. And so everybody is sort of like using it, the couchsurfing as an online thing becomes basically a free store where everybody is posting that they have a couch and they need to go someplace. But everybody's needs are eventually met through the system, and it's based on a reputational system. Yeah. So, in terms of gift economies, I think couchsurfing is a great example of bridging this modern internet, sort of using the internet as a way of facilitating an expansion. Definitely. And hotels are like all the sort of functions around like tourism, all that stuff are sort of undermined with people just staying with other people.
That's true. Yeah. Also.
Hey, what do people think about moving chairs, like people in the middle moving out to the walls, like so that everyone can see each other's faces more?
And another example that might be good for something here is to do a gift circle, where people go around and they share their needs and the things that they have to offer, and in doing so, people are sort of expressing all what they actually need, and are also given a chance to say things that they can give to each other. So in that way, you build social relationships in like a circle like this. Otherwise, it's just a back and forth. I mean,
there's a new it's an online website, and I think it's called Good Spoon or something like that. I don't know if anyone's heard that, but that's basically what it is. You can post, like, if you have a blender that you're no longer using, you post your blender. Someone posts their motorcycle. You can kind of do an exchange. So it's a website to search for what you want and to post what you aren't using, so that people can interact in that way. Kind of, it's basically couch surfing, but for appliances and other random things.
Yeah, there's 2 books actually that just came out that are saying like the web is now facilitating this like long hangover from too much consumption. It's called The Mesh is one of them, and the other one's called Collaborative Consumption. And there are like 3,000 examples of kitchen chairs. It's like Zipcar. Some of them involve a little bit of money to like join the club, but after that, the best one I think is The Mesh, to see a huge list of all of them. Also shareable.net just lists like every single thing, like book mooch. If you mail a book, then you can get a book mailed to you, and it's just a way to let technology match it's like the coincidence of wants, so the match is made.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of good books from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you get books from there, do you feel like a particular bond with the person that sent you the book?
Generally yes, because the books that I've mooched are like anarchist books. So it's like, oh, this is so sometimes, but not a strong bond in any way, and it's people far away, and I don't know, I don't expect I'll ever contact them again. And the books that I've sent are ones that aren't books that I had any interest in sharing, and just didn't want to see go to waste.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If the receiving of a book, because it might not necessarily bond you to another individual that's far away, but I wondered if it made you feel the need to reciprocate by sending books or to be involved in that at all. So you have sent books, but just ones that you didn't want.
Yeah, it happens. I don't know. I have the idea specifically into the anarchist point of view is just trying to reach. Internet is cool and all, for traveling. I've been relying on collective houses to stay and all. It's awesome, and the idea of having alliances like that is pretty nice. But at the same time, I think it's very important to be related to the place you live in. Try to build that kind of bond, that kind of strong relation, healthy relations with the people that are your neighbors or whatever, and try to overcome the difficulties that you actually have by talking to him or whatever. You have to face that. I mean, it's more of a political point of view, and the way we try to work in Brazil. It's like that. I can travel all around United States and Latin America and all, but at the same time, the main project that I have is actually in the neighborhood, is actually talk to the neighbors and try to build up a strong neighborhood and bringing back all that healthy relations and pretty much just fighting against capitalism. More into in Brazil, the bonds are just being destroyed. All the street markets are gone, are pretty much just fading away, and supermarkets are richer and richer. People don't want to get out of their house anymore to go to the streets and talk to each other. So that's also a political struggle and inside capitalism as an anarchist. So I also think it's awesome the things that internet can provide, but we definitely need more work in the local basis. And then we can share a lot more with traveling around. We have a lot more to share if everybody's trying to do something on a local basis. And also having this kind of network, wider network, but we can also learn more from each other, from that. That's what I'm trying to encourage the places that I've been to. Just have strong local work, and also have good web and good relation with other collectives. But it's very important to have local.
Yeah, it seems like looking specifically at fighting capitalism, things like the internet are really great because it provides this ability to reach far and wide, to share things and trade things and avoid buying new things, and using money. But it's an obstacle for the more intimate relationships that you're talking about, which are also integral, I think, in spreading such a thing more in depth, kind of. And so it's sometimes it seems like you have to weigh one over the other, which one's more important to focus on first, or right now, or if we can just appreciate having both.
Yeah, well, we for a while, we stopped working with social movements, for example. And it was a good thing for us, because we actually had more time to build up the space, have new experiences to share, local experiences to share. And at some point, just like right now, we're coming back and getting related to MST and to other social movements in Brazil, larger social movements, and we're actually more strong to do that because we have a lot of knowledge related to the local things, and we have a lot more to share with them besides just coming from the outside as a collective and try to help on meetings, on whatever. So the social movements and the social problems may also have to be in the anarchist perspective too. So it's all together. But at some point, I support the idea of just stop a little bit with the internet and a lot of networking, blah blah blah, and try to build up a local structure, and then will become a lot easier to share and to travel around after a while. So at some point you have to balance it, I think. It's my idea. Yeah.
I think you actually mentioned the key note that we are lacking in time. We work so much, we spend so much time on the internet, trying to be friends with people and trying to feel like we're in a community. But when I came here in the summer, I noticed, like, just riding on my bike, there's roads being blocked off and huge parties going on, loud music and people feeding each other, and, you know, kids playing in the street where cars usually go down and presents being given. That's because all those people at that time didn't have to work for whatever reason. And I think if we can stop working so bloody hard and start being able to get out there and speak to our neighbours, get to know them, say, look, I don't have a blender, can I borrow your blender? You know, the fact of borrowing, sharing, and, you know, reducing the workload so we are supporting an economy that's not really supporting us as a community. And it's working, there's people doing it. And I think you can all get together and talk about it, but it's the fact of actually saying to people, right, we are going to stop, we're going to block this road off, or we are going to bombard a house, and we're all going to talk, and we're all going to discuss, and I'm going to find out about your family and about you. And through that we'll find out about websites and books that we love and attitudes and personalities. But it has to start with an action.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Definitely.
So how do you get more time in a place like this?
Well, I would suggest getting a really good job where you hardly have to do anything.
Yeah, that's possible.
I quit working 11 years ago, and it's been awesome. I spent 7 years where I was just like squatting, dumpster diving, and that was pretty much how I got by. And I had a lot of free time to do other stuff. And I started to realize that the squatting was taking up so much time that I would spend less time if I just worked a little bit and got a cheap spot to live at. Like, you know, I've been in New York the whole time, and I've never paid more than $4.50 a month. And I just find, you know, places like this where it's not too expensive. And the way I pay that now is by dumpster diving. I dumpster books and I sell them online, and it probably takes a couple hours a week, and so I have time to do other things.
So that is a job.
That's my, yeah, I have a little business now, which, you know, so for 7 years I didn't, and so for the past few years I've been doing that, but I don't work for anybody, and when I'm dumpster diving I couldn't call it working. It's just fun. So yeah, I spend a couple hours a week maybe doing that, like on average shipping books, which that part's work. But I think that if folks are creative, there are ways to live without working, very much at least.
What do you think about using government resources like food stamps and stuff like that? Do you think in order to support the free economy and the gift economy, we should just completely stay out of that?
I don't know. I mean, that's all part of a strategy for me. It's just like I had regular work. I worked for big companies, and that was my strategy. Saved a lot of money, and now I have money to get by without working. Like, I've been traveling around Brazil and having free time for me, and even coming up here, like two years and a half ago, I quit my job, and that was my strategy, right? But at the same time,
what is now when you have no money more? I make the same. Now I'm dumpster diving, stay on his home, fix his whole house. I'm from Germany and travel around. I use also couch surfing and everything. So I do everything like this, really. I quit my job, I had a good job, everything. But what you do now when you have no
I
job
still-
more to
I
travel
still
and
have
nothing.
money. I still,
Sure, you still
I-
have money. This
I-
is the reason because
uh-huh.
you can lean back. This is
Yeah.
the reason because you can lean back and you can say, okay, my
Yeah.
safety is good.
Yeah.
It's the same like me. I have a good health insurance. I mean, when I break my leg, I call this fucking
Uh-huh.
number. They travel me back to Germany.
Uh-huh.
All is perfect. This is my safety. But
Yeah.
what is with the people who don't have the safety? What they do?
Yeah,
there?
yeah. I'm not saying that that's something everybody should do. That was just my strategy, right?
Sure.
But yeah.
Sure.
Just like,
You can't build a system. I think like this. You can't build a system by yourself when you have no security in the backside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, my English is
yeah,
great.
it could actually.
Totally disagree. I think if you learn to depend on the people around you and the land around you, then you're forced to really build up institutions that you can depend on, and not just like do some project that might last, a couple months. and then
This
disappear.
listens for me from his side that he makes just a couple project around.
No, I didn't.
No.
I mean,
No.
when I'm wrong, say that. But for me, listens like this: what you do, travel around to Latin America to make this in Brazil and everything, to connect with people and share everything. It's like a project for yourself because you are safe in your background.
What I heard him saying was that he's tight with his neighborhood where he lives, and that he really has learned to rely on his neighbors.
As soon as I get back, I have a whole collective to share everything I got from the trip. I'm not by myself here. The things that I'm saying were just built up with the relations I the collective. It's just I have a huge family there. I don't see it just as a collective. The whole collective is a huge family. And so I have a strong structure there and community feeling inside there. Everybody wants to know, and I'll be sharing everything I got from here. And so I'm not traveling by myself, really. I'm not. I don't feel like that. And there's a lot of, too bad you all missed the presentation on Blue Stockings. Would actually make a lot easier the discussion and understand what I'm saying. But the idea is there's a whole political anarchist perspective into all of that I'm talking about, which is getting rid of the institutions, is stop relying on a capitalist economy and its institution. And how we do that. How do we do that? Just like we have to pay for medical care because we have no knowledge towards that. All traditional knowledge toward our own health are gone. Our own inside institutions. You have to see a doctor to see what's wrong with your own body. And that's the things that we work on too. Just like food, why do we have to rely on just dumpster diving is a strategy. Just like my job was a strategy, but it's just a strategy. It's not the political things that I do. What I do is gardening and try to occupy space inside the city and grow food and know how to grow food. Keep natural seeds going, share seeds, go traveling around. And really, I don't like to depend on capitalism. As soon as it's gone or it faces a crisis, I don't want to be panicking and waiting for the market to come back and the state to get back to me. I don't want that. So that's actually my perspective, my political struggle and work is towards that. All I'm talking about is strategies, which is part of this political and more structured strategy and organizing that we do that down there. And that's what we're working on. And as soon as I get back, I'm writing, the whole collective is writing down all about that, how we can build that kind of stuff to overcome capitalism using also gift economy, but it's just a small part of it. There's a lot more into it. That's why I asked in the beginning if you were all in my Blue Stocking presentation, because I talked a lot more into that, like showing the pictures from the space that we have, our perspective and all, and the other collectives that we know in Brazil, how they affect us, the relationship between rural and urban areas, how can we deal with that in the future, which is, it's something that nobody talks about it, and it's a huge problem. Huge cities like New York and São Paulo, another huge problem that we never really take the chance to look into it and really be have a point of view into that, just like how we actually gonna overcome capitalism. What if there's a crisis? Like I've been to the East Coast, a lot of cities, and I saw anarchists desperate because of the economic crisis. And I was like, okay, so how can we be anarchists if the market and the state are weak and we feel weak too? We should be stronger and just multiplying the things that we already know and how to do. So we don't have spaces to do that. We don't do that. And that's what we try to do in Santo André, is just try to have that knowledge that is also inside the institutions back into our lives. So as soon as the economy is doing bad, we're doing good. We know the state won't be controlling everything, so we have lands. A lot of people will be desperate to know how to deal with the crisis, and we be calm and doing the stuff that we already know how to do. And that's the main point. That's the main perspective, our perspective. All the things that I talk about is just based on that. So it's just small strategies. So we can go dumpster diving, but it's just a strategy. You're still relying on capitalism and a good capitalist system. If you go to Brazil, it's a lot more harder to have dumpster diving, a lot more. So it could actually be the same thing with the Paricon. I mean, it's great economic system, but it only works in a good capitalist system. If you go to Africa or Latin America, it's just such a huge structure, and you have to rely on computers and everything like that. So how are you gonna do it? So have a strong relationship to reality, and how we can really overcome it.
I believe if we could care more, we would share more. So within the community, everyone knows something new that they can teach someone, and it would be nice to have, because I used to have this theory that, you know, in school they should stop doing so many bloody science classes and math classes and concentrate on languages, so at least we can communicate with each other around the world. But, you know, we need maths and we need science and we need everything. I don't believe now in society there's anything that we can take out, because by taking it out, something else is going to fall. But if we can just share our knowledges, like you're saying about going to a doctor to check ourselves, there's got to be someone in this room right now that knows something about their body and like medical things, you know, being able to rescue someone if they're drowning. There's got to be someone in here that does that. And rather than all of us being so naive and going, oh, I think I know how to do that, we should really explore more. We should educate ourselves and concentrate on sorting our wants and goals out. And I personally think our want is, you know, knowledge to learn how to be able to harvest crops, and so we can do it in our back garden if we've got a garden. So when the shit does hit the fan, we don't have to rely on capitalism, and therefore when a lot of people don't have to rely on capitalism, I think a lot more people would join in and go, ah, really, you know all these medical things and you know languages and da-da. Because it inspires me to know that someone who can speak 4 languages, and you know, that is incredible for me. I just think communities can, if they can care more, we'll definitely share more.
So you think things like free stores and skill shares, free schools and skill shares are like a good step?
It's definitely not a bad step.
Yeah, I think if we can get to a level where it's in competition with some of those more institutionalized entities that we rely on, you know, because any of us, if you had the option of knowing that you could get as good of care outside of the capitalism system when it was coming to something like food or healthcare or education, it would be a feasible alternative. So it's about making it an alternative that people outside of just the very impassioned and idealistic would want to turn to, so that the average person who maybe doesn't necessarily share, you know, an anarchist ideology, but they can understand that this is something, instead of going to that clinic or that doctor, I can get as good of care, or instead of going to the grocery store, I can get as good of produce and food outside of that structure. It will give them an option. They're more likely, it has to be at least the opportunity cost of doing something outside of, I guess, a capitalist structure has to be such that people would want to, for reasons other than just that they feel impassioned for it, you know, would want to make that change.
Kind of like following what she's saying, like an obstacle, or actually a question, like how, if someone doesn't have the investment of time or money or whatever it is. Like, for example, how you would have a garden, you've learned how to plant seeds, how to grow your own food, how to harvest food. If you don't have that initial investment of time to learn it, to be able to get into it, like, for example, how you're saying you did have a certain kind of job where you were situated, or even he's saying he had a certain kind of job where he was situated to get himself to transition. And even now, if he breaks his leg, he was born in Germany, but I live in America. I may not have health insurance, so he can call up that special number and fly back home and get his leg fixed. If I fall down the stairs, too bad for me. So, like, that's from people who are in the rat race of having to work the two jobs because they need to pay the rent, they need to pay the daycare, they need to get the food. What is there for those people to be able to transition? Like, I would like to learn how to grow carrots and peas, but if I don't have the time because I'm working like 2 jobs, how am I going to be able to do it?
Well,
you know,
and in economics terms, you would call that like an upfront cost. So time is, instead of it being money, that's the upfront cost that you're trying to get over. It's like a lot of environmental initiatives. The upfront cost is expensive, so it stops people from doing it because they have to pay a lot of money to implement these ideas, even though in the long run it's going to benefit you. It's the same thing with time. So it might cost you time to learn to do it, but if that time to learn to do it means that you will actually learn to have your own garden, make your own food, it will save you that money in the long run, which means maybe you'd have to work less, you know what I mean, because you wouldn't have to pay for food or as much food. It's just getting over, it's one of those things, it's like a sacrifice that you have to find a way if you want to do it. It's like you might pay more up front in an upfront cost, but like the benefits you will reap will pay off in dividends in the long run.
Or what about time? Okay, so for example, if you work 2 jobs and maybe you have roommates or children, or there must be like, you know, I'm sure, you know, like if a person works a lot or if you work a lot, there has to be time where you're awake. And then I hope some small amount of time with a roommate or a lover or children, if you can call upon those people, you know, with these new interests that you have, if it's for gardening, maybe like you can say, hey, I'm really interested in gardening, but I just don't have the time because I work. But, you know, like if you can only allot so much time to communicate with the people that are really close to you, like your family, maybe you can tell them, and maybe like among all the people, even if very few, there are people that you communicate with that you're interested in this, maybe they can have the time to learn and share those things with you, like, you know, at a family gathering or just like in your house or
The dinner table.
even, yeah, I mean like very, very small. I mean, if you can even call upon like close people in your direct community to help you out with just education on something like a learning curve for a more sustainable life.
I mean, it's all, I understand what you're saying, and especially in Brazil, which is a very different reality from here. We can still have strategies. If you have a collective, we've done it before, like people in the collective were struggling for money, we open up a really small restaurant as a cooperative. I gave money for that and helped them out. And I was inside, not helping them out, but we built up together. It lasted for a year, and at the end of it, people that were actually struggling to get that going, at the same point, they just gave up on it because it took too much effort to get it going for like a year, and then after that, you'll have time to relax and have the business going. So that's one strategy. And other one is, I mean, there's a lot of lack of knowledge on individual financial control. I mean, if you save $20 a month and for 2, 3, 4 years, at some point you can have 2 months to work on the other stuff, to have a better job, or even to work on the things that that could actually free you from like medical care. And there's a bunch of strategies, and I'm talking about Brazil. I mean, right? And believe me, it's another reality. It's a lot more tougher than any other place here in the United States. And people can actually manage to do a lot of these things. And like, if you know more about medicine, herbs, and a lot of things, on long term, I agree with her, you won't be spending on medical care. And I've seen examples all around, and it's just, there's a lot of strategies. It's just try to stop being pushed by capitalism and really understand the enemy and play with it. Just like have control of your financial life is important for that. To know what you're going to do, how much you have saved, and how long you can stay without a job with that money, and what can you do to build up something better for you in the meantime. I don't know, it's a bunch of strategy. As long as if you have strong collectives and a strong community, it makes a lot easier. Collective houses, for example, are impossible in Brazil because of the prices and all. But here seems to be a very good strategy to spend less, have more free time, and a lot of stuff. So I've seen it as a good example. But it's just a matter of trying and having a strong community.
I don't think the average person has time to build their own garden and like case the neighborhood and find an empty lot to start a garden in. They don't have time to do that. They don't have the skills to do that. But if like people that have time to come to an economics talk on a Thursday night can get together and put that time into developing space and land, you're gonna have more than enough participation. Like how the Free Store got going, people had some time to build it up and then just took off, right? You can do the same thing with a garden.
The different things that you guys were mentioning, like Brooklyn, Harlem, the Bronx. Okay, what about where you're situated? Because I actually don't live in New York City. I live in the suburbs of Long Island. So I commute and I take public transportation to get into Manhattan to go to school, and I take public transportation around the city. For example, if someone is working or going to school and that's where they live is in, for example, Long Island, Nassau County, Queens, and like in my case, I don't have a car, so that's why I commute in and out of the city. If you do not have a car in Long Island, the things that you're talking about, for example, the bagel place that you go and dumpster there, this place you go and you get produce and you could survive off of that, it is not feasible if you're in that type of environment. So it's like, it's an obstacle. So I would like to, for example, transition to where I'm spending less money on food because, I'm lacking in money, or whatever the case may be. I don't want to say I can't, but I don't know of, or I'm not familiar with how I would do something like that in suburban sprawl where you're one point and you could be trying to go 8 miles away where it would be a 10-minute or a 15-minute drive. But if you're trying to take public transportation, it's an hour and a half to get from the bus, or it's an hour and 15 minutes because you have to take the train back to Jamaica, back to this branch, back to that branch. Like it's one of those things where it's like if someone is trying to participate, like, hey, I want to consume less, hey, I want to dumpster dive, we're under the assumption that we're talking about this urban environment of the 5 boroughs of Brooklyn, but it's completely not applicable to Nassau County or Suffolk in Long Island.
But usually in less urban areas you have more land, so maybe in that case gardening would be a more convenient route.
I'd rather ask if you have a collective. Do you have a collective there? You should have one. It will make you a lot easier. Just put up signs. That's how our collective started. Just email stuff and say we were starting up a collective or community-based ideas, and it will make it a lot easier for you because.
And then maybe the one person in the collective might have a car.
or not,
In which
or
case you then
or you
go
can
with
actually have like a
dumpster
strong
marketing.
collective that have a garden, or just
Or-
have more knowledge of the neighborhood, and or even start up a collective house and have time for that. I don't know, but it's just a local thing again. Just like
Talk to.
look at where you are and your reality, and try to build up a collective there.
Okay, try to build a collective there. Awesome, but you said she have 2 jobs. She have no time. She have nothing
That
to.
was an example, I
Yeah,
don't
just the example. Yeah, I built up from this example. I like that. Yeah. So you save $20 each month, and then you can start in 2 years to bring your time in the collective, to start the collective. Because right now she have followed this line. She have to go to his 2 jobs, or to feed everything, or to pay everything. So to start a collective or whatever, to grow something, to find the people, she have then first the time in 2 years, in 3 years, when she have time off from her job. And I agree also, okay, with you can with this whole communities and gift flow and everything, you can be alive really easy and really good. But what is when you need really technology? What you gonna do then? Like this other example with broken legs. Okay, you know somebody, he can stretch your leg and fix it, and in 6 months and 6 weeks it's good. But what is when you have infections or whatever? How you get the medicals? How you find the how you start? No, when you're really sick, and then you have to start to find the people who have the medicine or whatever. You know what I mean? Then it's too late till you find them.
If you have wider relations and wider community, or even if you, I mean, I know a bunch of people in Brazil, in our neighborhood, and I know if I come up with some problem like that and I don't know how to deal with it, I think that something will come up to me because of the things. It's just gift economy too.
Yeah,
it's just like have that strong community before it happens. I mean, you don't have to wait to break a leg to start that.
Yeah,
you don't should do that.
So we have to start
I mean,
now. How we can start now when we have not the time. This is the point for me.
I mean, it's just a meeting. A meeting takes like 2 hours. Make up a fire with paper and on the it's pretty easy. Put up a time on the sidewalk, number X, whatever, and come down. I mean, at least 3 people will show up, and then it'll take you 2 hours to talk to them, and one of them will probably have more time than you have, and then this person can actually start something that you can't, help you out, and then really facilitate the things going. And then you can have another meeting with 3 people, you're spreading the word around, and next time you have 10 people in a collective. It's not hard. I mean, here it's even easier than in Brazil, and that works in Brazil. And at some point, you don't have free time, but a lot of people in the collective, 3 or 2 people in the collective do. Our collective is like that. I have a bunch of time. Most of them don't have it. So I help keep up the space because I have more time to do it. So it's a matter of spreading
the same.
the thing.
I help every people. I have the time because I have not the job. I help everywhere where I can in this place where I stay. Every people around. That's not a problem. But I'm thinking about the people who don't have the time and who don't know how to start. So how you can connect these people? This is my point question.
Space, you know?
Having community space.
Create space. Yeah.
The free store is one of them. I mean, a lot of people that have social problems and all come up, and you can talk to them all the time, and build up new relationships and see what they need and how you can help or not. Or you don't want to help everybody. You just want to help the people that you're actually close to, or if you have a bond with them, you can actually try to help them out with a collective. The thing is, we cannot like do it all by ourselves. I mean, I cannot just be everywhere and doing stuff everywhere and being preoccupied. I mean, if we actually stop to think about everybody's problem inside capitalism, you just end up doing nothing. I mean, you just abstract thoughts of a perfect system that will actually deal with all that problem, with all those issues inside capitalism. At the end of it, you just like join an institution in university and try to come up with a huge theory that will never be applied. That's what actually happens inside the academic fields of anarchism. Just like keep doing. Pericon is just an example of that. Just trying to have economy for the whole system, the whole world, which is anarchist, and it will never work.
Sure.
I mean, that's the idea.
I agree,
Just,
yeah. It's never
I mean,
worked, yeah.
just have these strong relationships and give confidence back to the people. I mean, they can feel empowered by it. That's capitalism. What capitalism do by taking knowledge from people and put it into an institution, right? My grandmother, she knew a lot of traditional knowledge towards health and childcare and a lot of things. And I cannot imagine her being panicked by the idea of not having a hospital for her. She could deal with that pretty good. And I mean, she had a lot of confidence. She didn't know how to read, how to write. Still, she had so much confidence in her that, I mean, she was pretty much more anarchist and anti-capitalist than a lot of people that I see around anarchist movement. And that's the idea. We don't even need to know how to write and read. I mean, it's just that bringing back that confidence, that power from the capitalism the state takes away from us. How can we bring this to a larger scale, right? And that's how we're writing down in our collective. And I mean, it's so hard to explain everything, but I mean, we're working on it. We see that problem too, and specifically in Brazil, and I mean, here too, everywhere. And we're actually trying to write down the things that we like how can we have a space that actually can work with that, multiplying that kind of things, and how can we can organize into something larger, like have a macro and a micro organization and bridged. Today in the anarchist movement, we got both separated, the ones that actually work with large organizations and well organized and theoretical perspective very closed, and the other hand you have the local, very isolated and sometimes individualistic strategies going, but at the same time they don't talk to each other. They're just enemies. So, and both of them lack a bit of the other. Like, so we're trying to bridge that, bring a new theory with strategy and organization that can actually bridge that together. And it's pretty much based on putting down institutions and how to live without institutions, how we can organize that, how we can organize spaces, how can they work with that, with social movements, with a lot of stuff. But it's just hard. I mean, just will take a while to write down, but that's our struggle too. That's a huge struggle, especially in Brazil with large social movements going. And we had that period of time of local action going and knowledge going. At the same time, when we came back, we're like, okay, we got something more than just those two perspectives. And I mean, it will take a while. I got some friends that could actually translate it to English, but that's our idea right now. As soon as I get back to Brazil, I have to sit down and write it all about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Jody's example or question about people without time. I think that people without time, like, you know, they can't be involved in every way that they may want to. They may not have the time, and I think like that they still can be involved though. And I think like, how do we reach those people? A good example is the free store, as a couple people have mentioned. Is like, you don't need much time to like stop by, and like it's been open since July, and thousands of people have stopped by and participated in an anarchist project, in an explicitly anarchist organized space. And like, that's like a lot of people who've been reached, maybe not in a very like impactful way. Maybe like people don't walk away with like, oh, I just participated in an anarchist thing, but like this in a small way that's happened. And I think that like there are other examples like free stores, like community gardens, like the 123 community space, which used to exist in this neighborhood, and some of the people here were involved in that, and some of the people from the store were involved in that, and like kids in the neighborhood would come and leave with a free bike after doing a lot of work to get it. And then Grub is another example. Food Not Bombs is an example when it's working well. Like, I think these are like things that are really practical and positive and really efficient in reaching a lot of people. And I think we don't need to reach everybody. We just need to reach people who we can reach, but we need to do it in a way that then they reach other people. And that's sort of the key. Like, you know, it's one thing for somebody to just like come to an anarchist music show or something. But if people come and participate in some sort of anarchist project and then they don't leave, and then like a certain percentage of them aren't talking about the politics, the ideas, and it's not spreading out, then it's a failure.
How you were saying that, I mean, for example, building up a certain type of community, how people are doing it in Brazil. I don't know if it's because, like, I don't know exactly the areas that you're talking about, but if people have reached, like, such a level of devastation and such a level of desperation that they get driven to consider this, but why is it then that if things are, for example, like, much harder in Brazil than anything that we've seen, like, in America, like, I don't want to compare one to the other, but for example, New Orleans or Baltimore or even, like, you know, the South Bronx, like, why is it that if things are so devastated and so much more far gone in certain areas of Brazil, and they are able to get themselves together and pick themselves up, why is it that if things are easier in certain places in America that it's not really taking place?
I didn't say that that the whole Brazil got communities going, and
no, I
mean, and they don't have that political history of struggle like Argentina, like Uruguay, and many other places in Latin America, that they actually more politicize and actually go against the state and the market and a bunch of times. And I know it's hard to explain because Brazil is huge too, but the main difference is the scale of the issues are a lot larger in Brazil. I mean, if you talk about homeless people, landless people, and compare to the United States, I mean, there's no comparison. There's no way to relate to that, to compare it. I mean, the social problems are huge, a lot more larger. And that's the main difference. I mean, I'm not saying that people in other states and other cities in the United States are not struggling. I'm just saying that compared to the scale of Latin American countries or third world countries, there's a huge difference. Huge difference. I mean, it's just, if you go to Sao Paulo, it'll take you like 15 minutes to realize that, to see the scale of the issues.
Kind of what I was asking is, if people are able to do it despite, let's say, more far-gone circumstances, like how you're saying with homelessness, it's like just on another level. Why do you think that in certain cities in America where things may be devastated but not as far gone as where you're talking about, why is it that people haven't been able to come together? And
it's just,
I mean, we opened a free store in New Orleans right after the storm, and I definitely saw like everyone helping each other out after the storm.
And another thing is, in American cities, because we're so institutionalized with capitalism, that we still have it ingrained that we can rely on our government in those times. So you have that torn. It's not that everyone is collectively saying, okay, our government's not going to do anything, so we have to do it. It's still people trying to work through the process that they like believe in, you know, that I put in money to Social Security, or that there's welfare, there are government sanctioned entities that will help me and aid me in these times. And it's, so you get people with the backlash at government institutions, which you saw with the Bush administration. You know, people spoke out against the government for not doing more, but they didn't necessarily turn to collectives. They just criticized what they believe should have worked, because that's what we believe in at those times, and that's why we have more difficulty, I think in countries where third world countries, or countries where you don't have such an institutionalized government in terms of like supposed to be looking out for the people in times of crisis. You know, you can't turn to them already, so you don't wait around for 6 months or a year or 4 years for them to do something. You know, if you don't do it for yourself, it's not going to get done. And we still have this idea of like, oh, someone's going to, you know, they're going to come, the Red Cross is going to come, you know. I'm like, they're in Haiti helping people, you know, right now. They're not necessarily doing it here. So we kind of have to get over that initial, like, yeah, we fight into Social Security. I wonder how many of us will actually benefit from it when we need it. And if you just wait around for it and you don't have any other, you know, backup plan, you'll probably still be waiting around for it when you need it and it's not there.
And the thing is, it's hard to go into this cultural like differences, and it's pretty hard. I'm still trying to figure out the cultural differences between the countries. And in Brazil, I mean, there's a large cultural differences inside Brazil, in each state of Brazil. And well, it all depends. I would actually have to go to New Orleans to have a clear picture of the community, how they organize, how they relate to each other, and really have an idea of what's going on and how. But pretty much it's just based on the capitalist idea of buying stuff and not relating, not depending on people, just in money and not in the community. It's pretty much it. I don't know. It depends on the place. Depends on the culture, background culture. It's a lot complex. Just like saying Brazil is all the same and all the struggles are the same, which are not. And
I saw, you know, in New Orleans, the strongest communities, the tightest communities, like people stuck around as best they could, and they were the first people to come back if they were forced to leave. And those that were more out of touch and didn't know their neighbors, they were gone, they didn't come back. And I mean, that's a way too general statement, but I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Thank you.
no, thank you all for coming. That's pretty much the best discussion I had so far. Like.